Nice work. Our initial functionality works really, really well. We can register the user. We can set up everything in a state. But the problem is going to be that if the user refreshes the page, we won't persist those values. And why is that going to be the problem? Because eventually in a dashboard, we'll check for that user. And if the user does not exist, well, then we'll just log the person out. And in order to fix that, we need to persist this in local storage. So let me just showcase the problem first. So I'm going to go here with Susan. Then that will be equal to susan@gmail.com. And then let's pass in dummy values. Let's register. We are good to go. Notice we have everything. We're back in the dashboard page. But if I refresh, what do you know? I don't have anything anymore here. User null, token null, and the same goes for location. Now, in order to set everything up in the app context.js, we'll create a function, add user to local storage, which is going to be looking for three things. It's going to be looking for user, token, and location. Why I'm asking for these three things? Because that's what I know I have in the response, correct? And then in order to add something to local storage, we go with local storage, set item, and then user is going to be the only one where we need to stringify, because remember, we can only store strings and we're getting back the object. Now, when it comes to token and location, well, both of them are pretty much strings. So we can right away go with set item and then token. Now I'll right away also set up remove from local storage, because as you can see, functionality is pretty much the same. Only in this case, we are removing the item, and we'll use this one when, for example, we log out. And then in the register user, right after we successfully get the response back. So in the try block, I want to invoke my function. Again, I have the object. I'm looking for three things over here. And then at the very, very end, we also want to pull them out at the initial setup. So once we start up the application, once we refresh the page, I want to go to local storage and look for all of these three things and then initial state. Now I'll check for user, and if the user exists over here, then I'll have to parse it. Because remember, again, we store it as a string, but we want to use it as an object. If it doesn't exist, we go with null, and here token is equal to token, and then user location or empty string. So let's start setting everything up, where I'm going to go to app context, and then right after my register, or you know what, let's do it above. Let's say here, and we're going to go with const, and now I'm looking for that add user to local and then storage. Now we'll pass in the object here. So let's say here user, token, and then location. And I'll try not to repeat myself, how I know that I'll have all of those three values. And then let's just say with local storage, and then set item, and then user. And like I just said, it is an object, so we need to go with JSON, stringify, and then we'll pass in the user. And then I have two more. I have local storage, then set item. And in this case, I'm looking for the token over here. And I'm going to name my value token. And as far as the actual value, that will be equal to the token. Let's copy and paste. And here we're looking for location. And the item name will be also location. Then in order to speed everything up, we're going to go with const and then remove user from the local storage. And in the function body, we want to go here with local storage, and then we go with a remove item, and then we just want to pass all three of them. So token, user, and location. So let's set them up one by one. This is going to be equal to user, and then we're going to have the location as well. Then we want to use this function. The first one, add user to the local storage, and where we have the register user, right after we dispatch, we also want to invoke it, correct? So let's say here, add user to local storage, and let's pass in the user, the token, as well as the location. And then lastly, since I want to set up my user, the moment application loads, let's scroll up, let's grab all of those things from the local storage on initial load. And I'm going to do that right above the initial state, just so it's clear when is that happening. And here I'm going to go token, and then that one is equal to the local storage, and then get item. And in here, I want to pass in the token. So copy and paste. And in here, we just need to change these values around. That's it. So I'll have two of them. I'll say I'm looking for the user. And then the last one is going to be here, the location. So let's do the same thing. Let's set up a location. And now in the initial state, what do we want to do? Well, I want to check for my user property and then set up the ternary operator. So if the user exists, then let's go with parse and then parse the user. So we'll get back our object. If not, it's going to be equal to null. Then token will be equal to token. And then when it comes to these two, the user location and job location, I want to check for my location and then set it equal to an empty string if there is no value in local storage. But you know what? I think it's going to make a little bit more sense if I go with user location, at least to me. So we'll say here user location. And then if it doesn't exist, then we'll go with empty string. So this should do it. So let's quickly test it out. I'm going to go to the big browser window. I'll make sure that there's nothing in the local storage because, I mean, it might save it right away. And then let me navigate to a register. I want to register. Let's go with Anna. So Anna at gmail.com. And then in here, let's set up the password. And then if everything is correct, not only I have the Anna in my components, but I also have in local storage. And what that means is that when I refresh, I also should see that in my state. So notice over here, I still have all the values. And with this in place, now we can focus on the login user functionality.